2, 1. Oh my gosh, I think we're actually live. Did it actually work? We're here doing our Be Live, trying to finger cross that it's actually going through. So hopefully we are broadcasting. Yes, we're live. I see it right here. Okay, welcome everybody. This is going to be a really exciting show today because I have, of course, this guy. Oh, I'm going the opposite. This guy right here. Hold on. There we go. Travis Thom, the not only the husband of Tony Thom, but one of my favorite people in the entire world, who is, in my opinion, the foremost world's expert on real estate Facebook ads. He is the Facebook ad to the stars person, and he is actually advising Facebook on all things real estate. And so the other day, we had a little scare. We had a little something come our way. And I will tell you, I shared some of the article titles with you. First of all, bravo for them getting the headlines to grab the readers. Because I'll tell you, I read one of them and it scared me. It basically alluded to the fact that real estate ads were going away on Facebook, period. And so people started to panic. So we are here today. I'm bringing you the voice of Facebook ads to ask the Oracle anything you want about the changes. So before we dive in, Travis, I want everybody to go and I want you to write this down. Travis's Facebook group is incredible. You need to go there. He gives so much information on how to use Facebook ads for real estate. It's Elevated Real Estate Marketing. Elevated Real Estate Marketing. Is it Mastermind on there too?
Yeah, that's like our open
marketing mastermind. You need to go there. Actually, let me write on here your name too so that everybody can see this. We want everybody to go follow you. You guys, if you are in the industry, share this out with somebody who needs to actually hear this, because we're going to demystify everything that just went on, and you're going to hear all this chatter about Facebook ads and how it's going away. They're not, right? They're not going away, right, Travis?
Not going away.
Okay. So the three things that came out, just to let you know, if you guys want to go to Facebook Newsroom, I think it's like newsroom.fb.com. Go to Facebook Newsroom. You can see the press release they did. They're making 3 announcements. So I'm going to cover the 2, and then we're going to get into the one that has everybody panicked. The one of them that they said is that anybody who is going to place an ad for housing and a few other things, they are not going to be able to use the multicultural affinity. Well, that's already been unavailable, and that's great because, you know, we don't need to go there. We have lots of laws around, you know, not steering and blockbusting and all that. So that has already been unavailable. That is not anything new, correct, Travis? That's kind of
right.
Okay.
Yeah, that is best practice to not, right?
That's the best practice, right? And so we're not even going to cover that because that's nothing new. The other thing they talked about is they're going to create sort of like a library or an archive of all housing ads, whether you've seen them or not, whether you've been targeted with them or not, which I think is kind of interesting myself. I'm not opposed to that. So they're creating a place where you can go and you can see all the ads. So anything noteworthy on that?
Well, you know, being able to actually go and see the ads, I think that's going to be a great competitive edge for those that want to know who's running ads in certain markets and what are they offering. Now, of course, with those, you can swipe some ad copy and be able to kind of understand a little bit of what they're trying to do. But you're probably not going to know if it's effective or if it's working or not for them. So kind of, you know, beware about how you do that. I think transparency is good. I think that a lot of these changes that are coming about, a lot of the times they are typically about 7 layers deep. Meaning that you've got to actively work.
7 layers deep? No.
Well, you've got to really look for it, right? So right now you can actually see everyone's ads that they're running on their business pages. You just need to know exactly where to look. And you know, some of those changes, if you're running ads, it might feel a little threatening for you because you don't want anyone to know. But really, at the end of the day, it's what does it matter? You know, it comes down to it is being able to leverage the strategy, right, and creating unique campaign and funnel that actually is tailored to you. So if someone sees your ad copy, if someone sees someone else's ad copy out there, it's, you know, so be it. But do you know if it's effective or not, right? Are you actually going to be able to put it to use? So I'm not concerned about that. I think it's actually a good thing to be transparent about that. And it's also probably a great idea to get more creative and use it as an inspirational type of place where you could go and see this repository of different ads, right, in different places.
And like Travis mentioned, I just dropped right here. You can see info and ad tabs on pages. If you want to see what ads people are currently running, guess what? They are already available to you. Yes, you have to do some legwork. It's not all in one repository. It's not in one place, but you can go right now to any business page. You can click on info and ads on the tab on the left-hand side and see what ads they're running. Okay, let's talk about the big one that shook the nation. Okay, so this one is, they're no longer going to allow targeting by age, by gender, or by zip code. So let's wait on zip code, talk about age and gender and how you're feeling about that now.
So we've been the past several years as an advertising agency that runs Facebook campaigns all over the world. We have never really ran campaigns that are specific towards a certain gender. We've done a few here and there. Now we know by analytics and data that there's certain genders that are typically leading more of the campaigns in terms of click-through rate and who's engaging. But we've never really segmented down and said, we're only going to focus just on men, only focus just on women within these age brackets. I think when you do that, well, I know based on it, because we're a data-driven company and everyone should be focused on data to tell the story. When you do narrow it down too much to a specific age or to a specific type of gender, where you're restricting the algorithm. And when you get too narrow, it goes under kind of a segmentation of what's called under delivery. We have an under delivery checklist kind of in-house that we have that says, if your campaign is under delivery, meaning it's not generating enough leads, it's not getting a high click-through rate, low engagement, or low reach, whatever it might be, typically, I know there's a few different factors. And under our checklist that we've been using as kind of our legend for several years, one of them is it too narrow, right? Are the targeting interests too narrow? And you start with, is it only targeting a certain type of gender? Is it only targeting a certain age range? And the algorithm is getting smarter and smarter every day because it is machine learning, right? It starts to grow as the more data it gets and better can understand the audience. So when you restrict it, you're basically, you think of like the go-karts, right? When we were kids and you're driving around, like the governor on the engine, right? Where it only restricts it to like a certain, it kind of throttles it a little bit. You can only go, 15 miles an hour. And then you'd ask like that one, mechanic in the family to like take it off, right? So you could go, 50 miles an hour. It's kind of like that, right? You're throttling the algorithm when you put too many restrictions on it. And the algorithm has become so smart that it can really predict based on the ad copy, the ad creative, and then the destination URL, right, of where you're sending people. It goes through and scans that website, scans the web page, and understands what is the content you're trying to give to these people, what is the context of it, and what are you truly offering, and who's the ideal audience that you should be going after. So the algorithm will then find those people within the specific audience you've predefined. And if you have it open enough, where what we call broad interest targeting, it'll serve it out to those individuals. And then once those individuals take action on it, it relearns the data and says, oh, perfect. We have about 50 people the past couple of weeks that have gone through, every week, that have gone through and actually taken a specific action. And this not to get too deep in it, but this follows with the Facebook algorithm under OCPM, which stands for Optimized Cost Per Thousand Mile Impressions, which is really tapping into the algorithm's database of how it actually works, which is finding individuals based on their life stage and consumer habits and the past data of what websites they've visited and actions they've taken on ads and prior ads and different ads.
Essentially what you're saying is that Facebook is so creeptastic and awesome that it knows everything about you. So you don't have to put in an age or a gender. It knows who to serve it to, because it's going to look at your website. It's going to look at your price points. It's going to look at what you're advertising. It's smart enough to know who to serve it to anyway. So that you're saying that's not that big of a deal. And it's actually probably better if you're not as niche down and you're as broad as possible. So
exactly. If you restrict it, then you restrict the opportunity for the algorithm to truly learn it and grow. Now let's say you're still concerned about that. Right. And you may not, fully believe in the algorithm to do those kind of things. That's okay. What you should do then is, let's say you only want to go after certain individuals in an age range that may, that may be inclined to buy or sell a certain type of property. Well, so if you're saying, well, I don't want a bunch of 18 to 25-year-olds, clicking on my ads if they're going to see it, well, then you might go, well, what are those people and what life stage are they in after that? So do they visit Whole Foods? Right? So is Whole Foods an interest, right? Are certain news organizations that they visit, is that an interest? You can get a predefined based on that person's life stage of where they're at. Now, this is where it kind of comes into really being able to train yourself on better targeting strategies. And this is something that we see a lot, which is that change is the only constant, right? And just like with any platform, with anything, change is the always constant thing that you can depend on. And you need to be able to be flexible with strategies. So more and more, we're going to look at life stages and then actual consumer behavior events, being able to match those. So that way with your targeting, you can say, well, what are the key life events that people are going through? And
Hold that thought too. We don't want to give them up yet. Hold that thought.
Okay.
Haven't covered them yet because we got still one more to cover. So I know you're so excited about all these details. Okay, so you guys, the long and short of it, don't worry about the age and gender. If you are worried about the age and gender, then start thinking about what those people are typically doing or going to. Like for me, maybe, I'm a 40-something mom. Maybe I am at Whole Foods on the weekend. You don't know. So that's what I'm saying. You need to kind of look at those things to build a different audience. But let's talk about zip codes because this is big business. So it's my understanding from something that you said that your agency hasn't really used zip code targeting for over 2 years.
Right.
So what does it mean? What's changing with the zip codes? Should people have a meltdown if they are using Facebook ads and putting in a zip code and targeting people in that zip code? Should they be worried? What do they do? What is the actual new thing they're going to do? By the way, you guys, you have until the end of this year, right? So at the end of this year is when they're going to be implementing all of these things. So Travis, talk about zip codes and what's actually happening.
So zip codes, for us, we've never really used zip codes as part of our targeting. One, because it highly restricts us from being able to let the algorithm ride out to the people that are the right prospects within a specific community. Now, we use a lot of historical data, right? We're very data driven. And so we use certain data from National Association of Realtors and certain guides and information that we get based on what are the behavioral habits of consumers. Now, if you look at one of the biggest statistics, which is that people typically move within a 12 to 15 mile radius of their previous address. It's almost 80%, right, of home buyers. So home buyers, sellers, they're typically moving within a 12 to 15 mile radius, right, of their previous home address. So if you restrict it so down to a couple of zip codes, then you may not be getting all of the opportunities, right? All of the prospects that are intending to move, within that range. So what we do is our average is typically we're down to about a 12 to 15 mile radius of a specific address or a specific community, whatever it might be. And then we kind of niche down, right, based on targeting interests, and it might refine and become a little bit smaller. When you're getting so small with certain zip codes, and typically if you get below like 10,000 people, the algorithm, one says, hey, you might be spamming these people if it's below 10,000 audience. And so therefore it's going to cost more. You're not going to be able to reach everybody, but your cost per action, right? Your cost per impressions, cost per click, everything is going to be a lot more expensive and exaggerated. So you need to have more people in the audience. And the more you have in the audience, give or take, right, several thousand, it can give them a little bit more data to really run. So what you're looking at is what Facebook is going to do. This is going to be their default type of mechanism when you're in the interface and the dashboard, is you're going to see that any housing ad that you're going to create, the default is going to be a 15-mile radius default.
So you're not going to go down like 1 mile. It's like, because now you can go down to 1 mile. So 15 is the smallest you can go. 15-mile
radius is going to be as small as you can go for housing ads, employment ads, and credit ads, right? Basically, those three key industries.
Just to clarify, if I'm dropping an address or a pin, it has to be a 15-mile radius from that pin. So it's going to get all the guys that are in there in a mile, but you're going to get the extra ones too.
Yes. Now, there's a few things that I'm looking at that I believe are going to be a few kind of caveats to that, which are that custom audiences. So custom audiences of specific areas that you already have. So let's say you have from a title company a list of a specific community and maybe several different zip codes. And you have a list of maybe 6,000 people, right, in that list. Name, email, a phone number, city, state, right, all those items. You're going to upload that list in a CSV file into a custom audience. Facebook is going to say, all right, we're going to scour through and find the people in this list and see if we can find their Facebook user ID and make a match. We found maybe 70% of them. And then now you have an audience where you can run ads just to that specific audience. Well, that's going to be probably a good workaround. That you're going to be able to target those individuals within that custom audience. Now, same thing then with lookalike audiences. You're going to be able to create a lookalike audience out of the custom audience, right? And a lookalike audience is just basically kind of what it says. People that look alike, similar to the original custom audience or seed list that you uploaded. And what Facebook does with the lookalike audience is it excludes the seed list when you create it. It excludes the original custom audience, and it finds 2,000 unique key attributes about each one of those individuals that says, they fit within the psychographic profile. They fit within these kind of key things that are very similar to the original audience you uploaded, and then you're going to pare it down by a geographic area, right? So you're going to start to work with.
I have a question, right, just to clarify. So, because you're melting people's brains right now, I love it. I love that you're just like, people are like, what is he talking about? Just so I can break down English, because you're big brain, I'm small brain. So if I'm picking up what you're putting down, what you're saying is that if you're going into the location section to build an ad, and you're using like their targeting, like Facebook lets you have the little map and does the targeting, and you're building an audience, like a saved audience from their stuff. Basically, right, if I drop in 123 Elm Street, it's going to give me minimum 15 miles around 123 Elm Street. However, if I go to my amazing title partners and get a list somewhere of a farm that they have address, emails and phones and all that for, that could be a workaround, meaning I might be in a mile, I might be 2 miles if I'm uploading that CSV file and creating my own custom audience. So that's a key piece, you guys. If you have a custom audience that you're uploading, that could be a way potentially to get around that 15-mile radius. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, that yes, no, exactly. That and lookalike audiences. And overall, what you're going to see is that people are going to they're going to have to get used to working with larger audience sizes. So what we're seeing now with our campaigns is the larger audience sizes are working really well. Facebook is really loving larger audiences because you have more data. And anytime you have more data to work with, it's basically having more tools, right? More information to really make a more qualified decision. So as you if you have more data, make more qualified decisions, the algorithm can really be able to be more precise. Now, I'm not saying that you can work with 2 million or 3 million, type of people in the audience. Most people right now are probably used to working with 30,000 people to 150,000 people kind of in their audience sizes for more hyper-local type of marketing, right? Okay. Now you're going to see them start to work then with 50,000, 100,000 to 500,000 type of people. The way to really niche it down, though, is going to be then with interests, right?
Let's talk about your targeting in just 1 second. So right. I'm just going to give a summary for those of you who came in late. Here's the deal, and I will put this in the details too. Don't worry about 2 out of the 3 of the things that came out. The one that people are worried about, age, gender, zip code, the algorithm's already smart enough to take care of age and gender. If you're really worried about it, you can start using interests, like where those people might, hang out or go to. The important part about zip codes, you are going to have a 15-mile radius from an address or a pin that you're dropping as a minimum. No longer you have the 1 mile. You can't cheat it and put the other things and exclude it. But what you can do is start uploading your custom audiences, and you're able to target to them in a much smaller area, like directly, and also creating lookalike audiences from those custom audiences you just uploaded. Now, Dustin had a question. He says, do you recommend keeping it 1% or expanding it up to 2% or more?
Dustin, that's a great question. What we're seeing in our campaigns, and so we create lookalike audiences at 1%, 2%, and 3%. And we're seeing 3% work really well. Now, those are larger size audiences and typically more expanded. I suggest that if you're working with lookalike audiences and you're getting comfortable with them, you should be creating multiple different ad sets. So let's say you might have 3 or 4 different ad sets, right? You have your original custom audience in one ad set. That ad set is targeting just the custom audience. Ad set number 2 is targeting 1% lookalike audience, right? And so on and so on, like 2% for the next one, 3% for the next one. And then you just got to really let it ride and see which one is going to give you the best results. And typically you're going to start to judge that after 2,500 impressions per ad set, and then be able to look at the soft stats through click-through rate, lead volume, cost per lead, and then of course quality of lead based on conversations over time.
Awesome. Okay. And I see we have a couple of questions too, which we will get to, but in a really, I know it's hard to do a quick soundbite, but give us a quick soundbite about targeting and what you mean by that. Because back in the day, I used to go in there and it was real easy, right? They'd have likely to move and all these easy things that you could pick from, and you could build your own audience. Well, those are all bye-bye. So let's talk about what they should be looking at. You mentioned behavior. So again, we're looking at things that are happening online or where our phone is going, GPS, and it's going to know if these people like to go X, Y, or Z, or if they're looking at websites. So just give us like a very brief, like a couple of good examples of what you can use for behavioral or interest targeting in Facebook.
Matching the life stage of the audience within their consumer habits and their behaviors that are happening online and offline. So if we take a look at the top 4 life events that have actually influenced individuals to buy or sell, those are getting married, getting divorced, having a child, and then retiring, right? Those are like the top 4 out of about 27. And the number 1 being, right, getting married. So if we look at that as an example, then we want to be able to say, how can we make sure that our ad is still hyper relevant to the actual audience, even though we can't dial in age range or gender, right, or zip code? So what we're looking at is then defining these people are engaged, they're married, they're newlyweds, they went to the not.com, they might like a certain type of bridal company dress. And then from there, we're then layering upon that and saying behavioral activities. They looked at Zillow, Realtor.com, house hunting, buying a house, first-time homebuyer grant. All of those are going to be indicative of their online and offline behavior based on Facebook aggregating an enormous amount of data from sites they've visited, apps they've downloaded, pages that they've looked at, discussions and things they've liked and commented on or shared. So that combined is going to create that match. Now, your ad, copy and ad creative doesn't necessarily have to talk to those individuals that says, hey, getting married soon, buy a house, right? You want to keep it more kind of broad. And that way the algorithm can say, we're going to serve this to the people that we feel are going to take specific action based on the targeting interests and what you're offering them.
I love that. So you're basically saying you're marrying a couple of interests, or what in my mind, in my layman's mind, I'm thinking websites people go to, right? So you got to think about where websites people are going to. If I'm looking for a house and I just got engaged, or maybe I just had a baby, I might be going to Zillow or Realtor.com. So you could use those as one of the targeting categories. And then, if I, like I said, I'm getting married, you're going to the not.com. Everybody knows that. Everyone thinks David's Bridal, the not.com. That's the things that you think about that you're going to be looking at when you're kind of searching online. So you guys, that's some ideas there. Now, again, too, if you're, looking for a house, you might be into HGTV. You might be looking at ideas that, you want that amazing farmhouse decor. Chip and Joanna Gaines, I'm sure, are a great category to be looking at because people are really looking at those things. So I hope that is helpful for you guys, is just even like write down websites that you would go to if you're in all those life stages. So that's amazing. Thank you for that. All right, so I do want to just move on to a couple of other things, because you and I were talking about challenges that people are facing with their Facebook ads in real estate currently. And there's a couple things that I think we really need to talk about. One is if you have uploaded custom audiences in the past, and maybe they've been, client lists, like truly, like maybe they were actually your customer lists and maybe they're not working anymore. You're getting error messages, you're getting denials from Facebook approving your ad. You've mentioned that you may have to re-upload those audiences again into, as a fresh audience, because sometimes they're getting shut down. Or if you've created something in the past that maybe had those targeting categories that aren't there anymore and they're not allowed, you've got to redo it. So talk about, what's happening with old custom lists or audiences that we've uploaded.
So just to kind of give everyone an idea as a benchmark. So I don't use saved audiences. Right. I don't.
Going in and you're asking Facebook, you're going through all their options, like their drop downs, and you're looking at what they have and you're making an audience. So that's a saved audience when he says that. You're actually going into Facebook and you're picking through and choosing and clicking on what you want to pick for those categories.
Right. Because when you create an audience and then you save that audience targeting changes so much. So if you are trying to use saved audiences you had from 6 months or a year or 2 years ago, there's probably a good majority of those targeting interests that have been removed, right? Mm-hmm. And then you try and run an ad and Facebook says, hey, you're trying to use old targeting interests. That's going to be a red flag, right, for Facebook. And then they're going to start to kind of look at you a little bit deeper and say, hey, if you keep trying to push that line, we're going to shut down your ad account. So don't fall into the trap of, I know it feels like you're being efficient and organized by just doing that, but this is something you have to put work into and look at it through a fresh pair of eyes every time. So I suggest that you purge all saved audiences you've had. If you have old ads or old campaigns that even had those old targeting interests, what we're seeing now is some of our clients and some of our people that we work with are seeing notifications of your ad was disapproved, and they go, and they look at it and say, well, that ad, I turned the ad off 6 months ago, and I only ran it for 3 months, and it was like in spring of 2017 or 2018, and why am I getting a notification of why it was disapproved when it's not even active? Well, Facebook is actually going through, the algorithm is going through and finding old campaigns. It's approving them. Now, if you have a lot of them that have old targeting interest in there, you're at risk of your ad account being shut down. So go through, turn off, not just turn off, but actually delete those old campaigns so you can throw the trash out, right? Get rid of that so you get in trouble. So
that's deleting all that stuff. Now, what about like, why can't I upload my custom list anymore? What the heck happened? It's just that it's giving me an error message. What do I do?
So this is something that Chelsea and I kind of did an in-depth discussion on, which is that a lot of people right now, what they're seeing is they're trying to upload a customer list, right? You can create custom audiences for everything else, but then you try and upload a list of names, emails, phone numbers as a customer list, right? To create a custom audience, and Facebook says, hey, you can't do that. Now, why they're doing that is they made this change several months ago where you have to basically create a business manager account. So you have to connect your ad account, your personal ad account, or your business page ad account. Everyone starts off with a personal ad account, and then they can add other supplementary ad accounts attached to that. But you need to then connect whatever main ad account you're using, you're trying to upload that customer list to, you need to connect it to a business manager account. And a business manager account is basically kind of the big version of your ad account, but it's the main ownership, right? That business manager account will now own that ad account. And they're doing this for transparency reasons so that they can actually track and say, your ad account ID is linked with this business manager. And that way you can actually upload a customer file list. And it gives Facebook a little bit more oversight and gives anyone in the audience that you're creating a little bit more privacy. So there's a few things kind of connected there.
So just to let you guys know, what he means is just Google Facebook Business Manager. And oftentimes it'll pop up a little button that says you have to go here and set this up. Right. However, I have personally seen it where it doesn't. So what you need to do is if you are planning on uploading a list, you have to set up Business Manager account now. So you have to go to Google, put in Facebook Business Manager. It pops right up. It'll walk you through the steps. I think it's like 7 or 8 steps. But if you are unable to upload your list, that is why. They're forcing you to go to Business Manager. So I just want to clear that up for everybody. Okay, the last one before we get into the questions is, I've been hearing a lot of people saying, well, I got disapproved for my ad, but I didn't pick anything that wasn't offered to me. I just went through the list and, I picked what was there. So one of the categories that you and I talked about is income. And that was one originally taken away. And then they sort of brought it back as a little bit of a different, of it. I think it was like percentages now they put in there.
Right.
And so what's happening is that they may be thinking, oh, well, it's here, this option, so I'm going to pick it. However, because of the nature of our business, the nature of our ad, it knows we're in real estate. We're not allowed to use some of those categories. Is that what's happening, you're saying?
Yes. So with the basically with HUD, the lawsuit with HUD that happened last year with Facebook, is that one of the things that they would agree to, which is that they would not run ads that was specific to income. And so that was also for what they call HEC, right? Housing ads, employment ads, and then credit. So that way it's, kind of under the fair housing, that you're not targeting specific people that are low income, and you're not targeting people that are specifically a certain kind of bracket, right? Higher income, but it's mainly kind of established that you're not any kind of predatory, or you're not excluding people that are within a certain type of income. That is something that, we really look at as kind of a, it doesn't really make a large significant difference, right? Because the algorithm, as we're going to go back to it, they know, right? And then you can, use other targeting interests, but primarily it's not something that was really widely used. So we don't see it as a significant kind of impact. Now, going back to, if you have done everything that you think of it is right, you've got the right targeting interests, and you have agreed to the fair housing laws within the Facebook Ad Manager. Typically, a lot of people that I see is that they forget to, or they fail to read some of the smaller print text in the ad at the ad level when they're creating it. It'll actually tell you this ad is denied because of this, or go ahead and verify and accept the terms of service that you agree not to violate any fair housing laws. That's typically number one reason why. So you just need to say, yes, I agree. I'm not going to violate anything. I'm going to do the best to my ability to run ads to the right people without discriminating. Simple, right? Couple clicks of a button. Now, that only pops up typically when you are going to run an ad that say, hey, looks like you're running a housing ad. So you got to trigger that kind of mechanism, right? And go through that process. The second thing that we see is you've done all that, and you have the right targeting, the right ad creative, the right ad copy, but you're sending people to, let's say, a website or a landing page. And then there's about 27 different key things that Facebook looks at in terms of where you're sending people as a destination. And they're getting a little bit more strict on this. So one of the top things is, well, your ad might be shut down, and they say, well, we are not, your ad was disapproved. And they might tell you why specifically, but here are the common things that we see is that you don't have a privacy policy, right? You don't have a privacy policy installed on your landing page or website. Facebook, now you have to have a privacy policy on that. And most websites, corporate websites and mid-level websites, if you're leasing a website, right, from some company, they typically have that kind of pre-baked in there. So the algorithm has these little spiders and robots that kind of go through and say, hey, we found it. We found the language. You're good to go. You can run that. The other thing is, if it's not mobily optimized, if it's not designed for mobile, then Facebook will penalize it, right? And it might get disapproved. And why they're doing that, saying, we're sending people outside of the Facebook ecosphere to a landing page or website that is not the best consumer experience, right? It's not the best web experience. And if we're taking people off of our platform, you're breaking our user experience. You're not basically being a good advertiser, right? Mm-hmm. You're not holding up our standards of the optimal consumer or user experience. Mm-hmm. So you need to be able to say, it's mobily optimized, and make sure that it is. Does the page take longer than 3 seconds to load? Let's say it's a slow loading website and it takes maybe 5 to 6 seconds, Facebook is actually going to say, hey, we're not going to send people over there, because they're just going to click on it and bounce back, and they're going to get kind of pissed off that they just wasted 3 seconds, 4 seconds of their time. It's a bad user experience, right? Once again, is there a pop-up immediately on the page? Is there a video that auto plays instantly? Does the imagery and continuity from the ad copy and that imagery, is it not relevant, right? So let's say you have an ad of baby boomers sipping Mai Tais on a beach, offering VA loans, and they click on that, and then they go to the website, and the website is just talking about playgrounds, right, and the best neighborhood. It's not, the continuity's been broken. So there's several things that Facebook looks at. There's about 27 of them, but those are the top ones.
Oh, just 27. So there you go. But I have noticed that it's typically because you're not accepting the regulations, the
right.
boxes, and a lot of times it's because you're picking categories that are available but not really for our industry. Income is probably one of the red flags. So you want to go back and look at that and see that you've selected the targeting. All right, so we've got a couple of questions here. All right, so Megan's got a question. If you're uploading a custom list, would you need to add interests? It's already targeting certain demographics that they've pulled. So is it a best practice if you're uploading a list to add interest to that?
Yeah, you can. The audience would have to be significantly large for you to start adding interests into the targeting to be able to kind of layer it. So when you start to niche it and layer it down, let's say you only have maybe 3,000 people in the audience, and then you add 4 or 5 targeting interests, what's going to happen is immediately that's going to get really small, and Facebook is going to say, hey, it's too small, we can't run the ad. It's going to be too specific, and it's not going to be able to really be a successful campaign. So I would only do that if you have an audience that's maybe 15,000 people, a custom audience of 15,000 people and above. Kind of play with it and see, like going, well, we had 15,000 people in it, now we added these 3 interests, and now it's down to only 4,000. Ideally, with custom audiences, it's not about layering those interests. It's just about knowing that you have a specific custom audience, and ideally who those prospects are, and then you can just run ads to them. Let the algorithm decide who is the best audience within it. So then, because you have an audience of, let's say, 100,000, Facebook isn't going to run the ad to all 100,000 people, right? It's going to find maybe the best people within the audience that are more than likely to take specific action, right, that the ad is relevant to. So it may say you have 100,000, but it's going to be a while, it'll take a long time to reach and fully saturate the full 100,000 people. So just let the algorithm do its magic.
And then also, would it be correct, and probably best practice, if it's a really small, like if you're doing a farm or something, and maybe there's only 1,500 people in it, is it probably better just to upload the list and not put a whole bunch of stuff in there, like parameters, because then it just gets really small. So let the algorithm do the heavy lifting for you, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so Leslie has one. What if your community is less than 50,000 people? That's kind of like what we were just talking about. So if you're kind of targeting just the small community, what's best practices for that? Layering interest, not layering interest? Should you try to go bigger?
If it's less than 50,000 people, that you should be fine with probably adding maybe 2 or 3 targeting interests and being able to play with. Ideally, anything over about 15,000 people, you should be able to add a handful of targeting interests, but still just play with it and kind of see. If you have a community that you've been marketing to for a long time, really kind of also ideally you have to reverse engineer what is your goal. Lead generation campaigns, you want typically larger audiences to work with, unless you're retargeting people that have interacted with a certain website or video. If you're running video campaigns, then smaller audiences are going to work just fine. Don't worry about that. You can also then do carpet bombing type of campaigns where you're going to run a video to all 50,000 people in the community, no interests layered on it, anyone that watches maybe 50% or 75% of that video, then the behavioral actions that they've taken on that video have indicated that they are probably the right audience you should target to. And then you have a new custom audience of anyone that watched, a certain benchmark or timeline of that video, and then run ads just to them. So there's so many different strategies to use, but 50,000 is a pretty good size. Just I would play around with different objectives and different targeting interests, 3 to 4 different ad sets, different interests in each one with no interests, one with a couple, one with different interests, and then just compare and see what's going on with that.
Okay. All right. When using a lookalike audience, do you still like to exclude realtors and loan officers from that if you are obviously one of those people sending an ad out?
Yes, yeah, I do, and I typically go after, instead of job title, more of what are the tools that they would use, and then what are they affiliated with. So National Association of Realtors is kind of like the holy grail that would cover a majority of that. If they like certain types of news outlets that are affiliated with news, like Inman News, or do they use certain types of tools or products, right? That might indicate that they're an active, real estate person. Yeah.
Interesting. I think that's most of the questions we have. If you guys have anything else, just let us know. And obviously Travis and I'll kind of watch the comments and questions here and respond as more come in for all of our folks who are watching the replay. So, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I feel like we really covered a whole lot of stuff there fairly quickly. So again, you guys, don't panic about the changes. You heard it here from, the oracle of Facebook ads for real estate, that you still are able to target by location. The algorithm is really smart. Use your custom lists and your custom audiences, and you're going to be just fine, which actually is a better strategy than using zip codes and the saved audiences, or what you can search through in Facebook anyways. Yeah. So definitely don't forget to follow Travis. Go to his Facebook group, Elevated Real Estate Marketing Masterminds. You and I are going to get to speak together again in about a week or 2 weeks or so. So that'll be fun to see you again. So if you're in the Phoenix or Scottsdale area, Travis and I will be speaking, and Dustin, who asked some great questions, will be there with us as well. And we'll be on April 3rd, right, at the Scottsdale Air Park. So hopefully you guys can get a ticket still for that. Travis is going to be sharing his top 10 Facebook ads. Woohoo! Thank you guys so much. And again, if you know somebody in the industry that would benefit from this, please share it out and let them know where to find Travis so that he can be of service to them. Thanks again, Travis. We'll sign off for now.
All right. Thanks for having me. And everyone, if you have any questions, push them in the comments. I'm happy to answer.
Thanks. We'll see you soon.